If you're receiving tamper alarms from your motion detector, to test it, please squeeze the bottom end of your motion detector gently and release it. If it's causing a problem, the red light will begin to flash rapidly or stay up solid. You may need to realign the electronic board inside the motion detector. To do this, please open up the motion detector and then simply realign the board slightly up or slightly down. Looking in this picture, this is where the bottom should be aligned. Notice that it's not all the way towards the bottom and it's not all the way towards the top. Setting it all the way towards the top like this, it may not be aligned, and setting it all the way towards the bottom, it may not be aligned either. Please choose somewhere between. Once it stops flashing, that is when you should re-squeeze it and make sure that it doesn't start flashing again, such as now. Squeeze down and then release. If it doesn't start rapidly flashing, you know it's correctly installed. If you realign the board and it still gives you issues, it may be because you tried prying the motion detector open earlier by putting the screwdriver between, instead of opening it correctly by putting the screwdriver in this hole. If that is the case, don't worry. There's an easy fix for this. You may take a small piece of cardboard, such as the cardboard box that it came in. Take the little piece of cardboard and then tape it on the inside cover right where the notch is that pushes down on the tamper switch. Once you tape that in place, go ahead and put the cover back on. In 99% of these incidences, it will fix your problem. If it doesn't fix your problem, please contact us and we'll be happy to help guide you along the way. Now that the motion detector stopped analyzing, we're ready to test it. It should be clearly noted for the first 6 minutes after putting the lid on the motion detector, it will be in a test mode. This means that within every 10 to 15 seconds, it will send a signal after detecting movement. To test it, simply wave your hand in front of the motion detector. You will notice that the red light will come on. It should be clearly noted that the red light may not appear until 2 seconds after it actually saw your movement, which means if you move in front of the motion detector, it may not actually light up until 2 seconds later. That does not mean that it did not pick you up at the time that you were in front of the motion detector, but rather that it was a 2-second warm-up delay. This is installed in the motion detector so that it will save on battery life. Once the motion detector is not in its test mode, which is 6 minutes after you put the cover on it, it will then revert back to the set delayed time, which is on that blue terminal that I explained earlier. It is very important that you actually leave a room before starting the count timer. So for example, if you set it at 15 seconds and you walk in the room, as soon as you walk in the room it will sound the alarm. However, if you continue to stay in the room and you never leave, that 15-second counter will keep resetting. For example, if you're in the room and you start counting 1, 2, 3, and then you move your arm, that counter will reset to 1, and it will start counting again as 1, 2, 3, and then if it picks you up again, it will then reset again. In other words, that 15-second counter, you must actually leave the room. That is very important here. If a burglar would enter your room for the first time, he will set the motion detector off immediately because no one was in the room previously. Finally, you will need to mount your motion detector. We recommend mounting the motion detector between 6 to 8 feet in a corner of a room. By putting it in the corner of a room, it will maximize the area that it will detect movement. This motion detector, when walked in front of, will light up a red light. The red light will indicate that it's picked up movement. However, please remember the delayed times that we talked about previously. It will only send a signal to whatever the time delay that is set inside the motion detector. This saves on your battery life. We highly recommend keeping it at the factory setting. However, if you want to set it to a shorter interval, you may do so by changing that knob inside the motion detector. More important, you must leave the room before that timer will start counting. So if it's set at 15-second intervals, you must leave the room. That is very important, otherwise it resets that counter. You'll see this motion detector is approximately 7 feet in this room. It detects movement from every location. Finally, please remember that the bottom of the motion detector is shown in this picture very clearly. It has the lens on the bottom and the lens on the front. The lens on the bottom is used to determine the difference between people and animals. If it's still picking up your pet that is under 38 pounds, you will need to angle the motion detector upward, just slightly. Please don't point it at the ceiling, however it may not be able to be pointed downward because the bottom lens is used to pick up animals, and so it knows the difference between animals and people. I hope this video has helped you understand the functions of our motion detectors. If you have any further questions, please contact us, and we'll do our best to help guide you along the way.